ABC News' Matt Rivers joins me now from Beijing with more on this high-stakes meeting. Matt, what's the importance of this? Antony Blinken and Xi Jinping together, how big is that for the United States and for China relations?
Well, just that meeting specifically, talking about that meeting on its own, that's a big deal because it was never guaranteed. It was never in any official schedules that were put out. It wasn't confirmed until only an hour before it began. Had the pre-meetings that took place between Secretary Blinken, his team, and China's top diplomats not gone well in the eyes of the Chinese, there could have very well been a snub on the part of President Xi. So the fact that he came out, he didn't have the kind of negative rhetoric about the U.S. when he spoke, the fact that the two men met for 35 minutes, I think that's a bare minimum kind of situation where you needed to see that in order to call a trip like this a success. But I also think it's really important to put some context around this in the sense that when they're talking about the deliverables from this trip, that the main goal was just to reestablish senior levels of communication, that's not all that much. It shows you how fractured that relationship is, that simply getting people to talk to one another at a senior level is considered a main goal of the trip. And even what you heard Secretary Blinken mention there about fentanyl, I was living here in Beijing back in 2017. I went to a press conference here in this city with U.S. law enforcement representatives talking about fentanyl. That's not new. They're simply reestablishing an old working group that has been around for the better part of a half-decade now. So that gives you a sense of what is going on with this U.S.-China relationship. It is very fractured. We're talking about bare minimum gains, but it is important that the relationship didn't get worse because then you're avoiding the worst kind of military and economic consequences.
So did Blinken accomplish what he set out to do here?
I think so. I mean, he can come back and he can say, look, we're talking. You know, I think there's going to be more cabinet level of visits here. Janet Yellen, for example, the Treasury Secretary, could be coming here. I think this sets the stage for President Biden to meet with President Xi later this year, perhaps on the sidelines of the APEC summit in San Francisco. The one thing that I think people are going to look at and be concerned about is that the Chinese did not agree to direct military-to-military communications. Those kind of communications have effectively been cut off between both sides, and that was a stated goal of the United States, to reopen those lines of engagements in order to avoid the risk of miscalculation in places like the South China Sea, where you could, if you're not talking, have some sort of accident or misinterpretation that could lead to conflict, could lead to injuries. The U.S. wants to open up those lines. The Chinese apparently do not, and that's something that has watchers of this relationship pretty worried.
So, Matt, what happens now?
Well, I think you're looking forward to the next big meeting, which would be a Biden-Xi visit. You hear Biden talking about wanting to have that visit. President Xi, just by reading the tea leaves in his opening statements here in Beijing, certainly seeming to not criticize the United States, which would leave the door open for a Biden-Xi visit. And really everything, especially here in China, comes from the top down. They're not going to do anything without President Xi's blessing here. So if he wants to talk to President Biden, I think you're going to see more deliverables if they meet later on this year.
All right, Matt Rivers in Beijing, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.